Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our Arizona Coyotes franchise mode here in NHL 22. So in last episode, we simulated more of the season, and we're still winning a lot of games, which is really good to see this young team perform. We are 38, 16, and 5 in first place in our division, and also one of the top teams in the entire league. As well, Jacob Chikrin has been leading his team by far, 72 points in 59 games for the defenseman, which is absurd. But yeah, I think this is going to be a really good season for us, and more than likely we are going to be making it back to the playoffs, which is really good as well. So before we get into the trade deadline and simulate the rest of the season, we do have a few comments to go over. So the first one is from HawksFan88. He says, definitely keep this team as is. They're having a great season, which I think is definitely the right move for this team, because we do have a lot of guys in the AHL that we could honestly just call up if this team isn't performing well. Because we look down here, we got Lawrence, who's NHL ready. We got Achari, who we actually signed, but I put him down in E- because we needed to make some room. Schulz is down there, Sadikov's down there, McGillis is down there, Varlamov. And then on defense, we got Tukinen and Schneider, who are both NHL ready as well. And then also goalie-wise, we have Wallstead and Prosvetov that are also NHL ready technically to an extent. So I think we really do not need to make any trades, and I probably won't be making any trades this episode, but I do have other comments that kind of state other things we can do, which I'm not opposed to as well. So the next comment is from Jordan Neufeld. He says, I just stumbled across your account a few days ago. I want to say that this is some great content. Love how you play it much more realistically compared to other YouTubers. I play the game realistically as well, and I actually just finished my Arizona GM mode. I think with the injury trouble, you could maybe get rid of get a big DFD for the bottom pairing. I think example David Savard was on someone's trading block. I didn't see what his term was on that contract, but he could look like a good option for a bottom pairing defenseman. So I'm not opposed to upgrading our defensive core really, because if we look at our defensive core to an extent, it's mainly just a bunch of young guys. It is a good defensive core though. Obviously that Chikrin and Soderstrom pairing has been phenomenal. These other pairings have been pretty solid as well. It's mainly that top six pairing that's kind of a little bit weak. Bodang, Yoki Haru. Obviously, I don't really want to change it too much, but both these guys haven't really put up much offensive points, and their plus minus is probably the lowest on the entire team, which is not great. So if we are to upgrade something, it would be defense, and he was suggesting David Savard, which I don't know whose team he was on for the trading block, so we'll have to take a look at that. But I don't really know if I will make a trade for him, because I feel like I don't know if I want to really screw around with how good this team has been so far. And if we need to, instead of trading for David Savard, we could honestly just call up somebody in the minors, because we got Tukin, and like I said, we have Schneider we could call up if one of those defensemen are not performing up to standard. But let me try and find where David Savard is. Oh, there he is. On Buffalo's block, he has 2 years left at 4.45, which I'm not really wanting to pay to him considering he's 35. So for now, I don't think we're going to bring in David Savard, but if he has 1 year left next season, and maybe we could get him on next year. Yeah, maybe next year at the trade deadline or something, we could pick him up, or at the start of the season or something like that, if we decide to part ways with either Yoki Haru or Bodang. Or then again, we do have, like I said, Tukinen and Schneider that might jump up, so I don't know if we'll bring in any defensemen for the next few years until those guys get to play in the NHL and stuff like that, because Tukinen is a big piece of this team's future, I think, on the blue line. So yeah, we're not going to trade for David Savard, but I really appreciate your suggestion there, Jordan. Next comment is from Cody Legaspi. He says, could try to move on from Sedina if anyone is interested in him. He isn't playing up to his contract and can use a change in scenery. Lots of solid top four lefty on the block. You could always try to build the trade around. As for the center, asking for $16 million, I would wait until the re-sign stage and see if he drops, and if he is still RFA status, I would tender him and wait it out to go lower. So I agree with your thoughts on Farinacci, because Farinacci right now, if we look at his the all expiring contracts, Farinacci really at the moment, he wants a ton of money, which is $16 million for 8 years, which might end up being an overpayment by quite a large margin. So I think we are going to wait and see if he wants less when we get to the re-sign stage. If he doesn't for some reason, then we'll just end up qualifying him, getting him for less for 1 year, and then hopefully next offseason his asking price comes down so we can lock him up on like an 8-year deal or something like that. But I would really like to keep Fernacci around for long term. It's just not really for that price of like $16 million, because that's definitely an overpayment. As for the Zadina trade you recommended, I don't think I really want to move Zadina yet. Maybe in the offseason or something like that, because we do got guys in the system. But as you can see right now, Zadina hasn't really been living up to his contract. 34 points in 59 games isn't great. But I don't really want to screw with his team's like lineups and stuff like that too much. So I think I'll keep him around for now. But at some point, like this offseason, we could potentially trade him away in order to maybe bring in a better player or a future prospect. And in that way, Shelley and stuff like that could get up to the top line and all that type of thing. And finally, I just wanted to shout out Michael Gregory for this awesome comment. So thank you for the comment, man. Appreciate you helping my video out and getting them views. But anyways, let's actually give a contract extension before we actually get into the trade deadline. And that contract extension is going to be going to Mr. Agostino because, like I said, we'll wait on Fernacci. I think we'll also wait on Genther till the offseason. Actually, maybe I'll get him right now because he is not wanting a ton. Let me just see what 85% of this would be, because I definitely think Genther is a part of this future, but I don't know for how long term. So let's see if we can get him on 85% of this. I'm going to definitely do some math right now. So let's see if we could get Genther on an extension, because it looks like we could get him down to probably like 4.65 for 6 years, which is a really solid deal, I think. So let's see if he will accept that. And then also Agostino is going to be the main one we're giving an extension to already. And we're going to give him an 8-year deal. He wants 10.325 for 8 years, but I am going to do the 85% trick because I love that 85% trick. And we should be able to get him for like 8.8. Yeah, 8.8 I think, which is not bad. 8 years at 8.8. Let's see if he accepts that. And then everybody else we will wait till the off season to deal with. But hopefully we do not get too close to the cap floor with those signings. But hopefully those guys accept. So that is that. And I don't think we're gonna really make any trades at this deadline, but we will still go into it just to see if there's anything I want to trade out there for. And then we will simulate the rest of the season and see if we make it back to the playoffs, which we more than likely should, as Beaudin has been injured literally the day before the deadline, which was really unfortunate, but at least we have a depth defenseman up here. And yeah, we'll just go in as a buyer based on our status, but I honestly don't think we're going to be making any trades regardless. But that really sucks that Beaudin just went down with an injury. Like, it would make sense now to bring in David Savard as like a depth defenseman, but I don't really know if I want to do that because of his 2 years and stuff like that. There is a lot of defenders out there. Like, I agree with your guys' comments in bringing in a defenseman, but at the same time, we do have the ones in the system that I could call up. Like, I think I honestly might just call up Katukinen at some point in the playoffs if someone's underperforming or something like that. So, but yeah, I don't think I'm going to make any trades, because let's just take a look at our defensive stats again for this year. See who's been doing what on our defensive core. Because, like, Chikrin's been phenomenal. Soderstrom's been really good. Timmins and Samorukov have been pretty solid both defensively and offensively. And then Yogi Haryu's a -3. And Beaudin's only a +4. So the two of these guys are probably the weakest links, but Beaudin's now injured. So Moser is going to end up playing instead of him for a little bit. But if we need to, we could always send Moser down, call up Tukinen, and he'll be in the playoffs instead. Something like that. Yeah, I think we're not going to make any trades. Like, I really like your guys' suggestions, but I think right now I want to let the young guys play and just see how they end up playing this year again. And then obviously next year, then we could bring in more veterans on the blue line if we really want to. So yeah, we're not going to make any trades this year, just based on that logic alone, because of the amount of youth we have in the system. We have like all the depth in the world to an extent. So there was a big trade between Montreal and Philadelphia. Montreal gets a first, a second, and Ryan Graves for Christian Dvorak. Interesting. As well as Jacob Slavin and Jordan Greenway go to Pittsburgh for 2 first-round picks and 2 prospects, it looks like. And let's take a look at some of the other trades that happened around the trade deadline, because I don't know if I looked last year I can't remember for sure, but I will show you guys all these trades. Thomas Tatar going to Colorado. Interesting. So Colorado's loading up, looks like. Edmonton as well, bringing in Matt Nieto, but getting rid of Xavier Bourgault, which is kind of a surprise. That's a top 6 forward prospect. Orlov and CZ go to Carolina for Slavin and Greenway, or not for Slavin and Greenway, for a second and a fourth. Dougie Hamilton and Tyler Myers going to Dallas. Damn, that's pretty interesting. Adam Gaudette got moved to Buffalo, our former player. Rasmus Anderson to Florida. Josh Anderson and Marcus Foligno to Nashville. Nothing spectacular in terms of trades, it looks like. And I think that is good to go. So let's simulate the rest of the season, see how we do. And hopefully we can continue to play like we did in our first half of the season, because that would be really nice. Because if we can continue playing this way, we are definitely going to be a playoff team. I think we're going to be a playoff team regardless, but hopefully this team can continue on their offensive upcline now where they've been on. So Agostino is going to accept the 8-year extension at 8.8, which is really awesome to see because he is a big piece of his future. And apparently Dylan Genther does not like that contract we offered him, even though it was 85% of what we offered him. So let's try and offer him again. But maybe he's just demanding a little bit more money now. I don't know. Let's go to RFAs, expiring. Yeah, he's wanting more money now than he did before, so I think we should probably lock him up while we can. I will give him 4 years and try and get him to like 5.8. 4 years at 5.8 should be decent. Hopefully he accepts one of those, because or else it's going to be a little bit problematic in the off season. Because I think he's going to end up wanting a lot more money, so. Okay, let's simulate to the 1st of April. See how we do in the last bit of March, and Genther's going to accept, so there's a good little contract. Not too expensive of one and not too long term, and that is a major injury. Luckily, we have Wallstead who we could call up, so we have all the depth in the world, but Lenefelt has been injured till April the 7th, which means Wallstead is going to get his opportunity at the NHL level, and he does not go through waivers still, which is really good. But Jesper Wallstead, you guys wanted him in the lineup as our backup this season. Well, he's going to get an opportunity to with a Lenefeld out. And Jack Campbell's been really good this year as a backup, so I think Campbell could still do good for us. But Wallstead's going to get an opportunity at the NHL level for the rest of this regular season almost, I think. And maybe, well, actually, yeah, because he's out till April the 7th, so. But Wallstead's going to get an opportunity to play. And Calvin Shelley has now bruised his arm, so apparently we're getting slammed with injuries at the worst time possible. And of course it has to be to one of our best goal scorers, so we'll just go replace player for now. And Nick Boding has returned from injury, which is good, because now we can just take out JJ Moser. And our defensive core is back to full health. But we do need still Shelley in the lineup, but at least Henriksen is not that bad of a depth option for this team. And then we got guys in the minors we can always call up, like I said, if need be. Let me stop the sim for a sec, because I can't actually see anything. We've lost 2 games in a row since losing Shelley. That's not good. And it also probably ruins the chance of Shelley getting a really good season. And Jacob Chikrin has now been injured, which is a big blow, obviously, because he's had a really good season so far. It might hurt his chance at a Norris Trophy. So these injuries are starting to add up, which is not good. We'll go replace player. And Shelley is back, which is good news. He is going to get to play some last little bit games of the regular season and then into the playoffs. And there you go. That is set up good. Let me quit out of the screen again because I can't see any of the scores. Last 3 games in the month of March, and Chikrin has returned as well, which is good. Because we need Chikrin, obviously, to be a contending team because he's our top defenseman by far. And he's pretty much like the backbone of this team to an extent. And there we go. There's another win. So 48, 19, and 5, and we got still quite a few more games left this season. We are the top team in our division still, and we have already clinched a playoff spot with 70 games into the season, or 70-something games into the season. 75 games into the season? 72. Nice. And we are currently like the 3rd best team in the NHL, which is also really good. And Chikrin has 84 points in 70 games. He could have honestly probably hit 100 points if he didn't get injured, but who knows, maybe he could still hit 100 points, which would be really impressive, but who knows at this rate. because maybe that injury is going to screw his chances of getting a good amount of points. But let's get the rest of the season done with. So we'll go up till the 11th. See if we can get some more wins here, as Lenefeld has returned. How good did Wallstedt do while he was up here? Out of curiosity. He was phenomenal. Wow. Okay, Wallstedt has definitely made a case for being a backup for us next year. 2 games, and he had a 971 save percentage. He had 1 shutout in one of his only few games in the NHL, which is incredible. He's going to go back down to the AHL, but he honestly could be in the NHL by next season if need be. It sucks to send him down because of obviously he's playing really good, but I don't really have anything else I could send down. And obviously we need him down there as well for the AHL playoffs, because the AHL team, I believe, should be making the playoffs as well. So AHL team is back and ready to go, and goaltenders are back and ready to go. Hopefully Lenefeld doesn't get re-injured again, but then again, it would be okay if he did, because Wallstedt is really good so far. And Terrell Krstanovich has been injured in the AHL. We'll go replace player. And Agostino has injured his hip, which means I think he might miss some of the playoffs. I'm not sure. It's not too long term at least. But we are getting really slammed with injuries right at the worst time possible. And Lenefeld is full health now, which is good. Means he didn't get re-injured. We're at 50 wins, which is maybe for the first time in franchise history that the Coyotes hit 50 wins. We are not the first team in the league. We are third behind the Penguins and the Leafs right now, but we are the best team in the Western Conference, which is a really big surprise that we're better than Colorado. And yeah, Chigrin's point production has slowed down a little bit near the end of the season, of course, which will prevent him from getting to 100 points, but he could still finish with 90 points, which is kind of nuts. Let's simulate the last few games a little bit more. See if we get some more wins, as Baudin has been injured with a neck strain. My God. These injuries are hitting us right at the worst time. And Agostino is back, which is good. So we could throw him back in. Maybe that's why our team wasn't doing as good. There's another win, and Braden Schneider was never injured, I don't think. So that's okay. Krstanovich needs to be thrown back in the AHL. He was where was Krstanovich? I think he was playing where Karate was, right? Yeah, that's what I thought. And there's a 6-1 loss. 52, 23, and 5. We got the last 2 games of the season. We're at 109 points, which has us still third best in the entire NHL. And we've almost locked up, I think we've almost locked up the Western Conference, which is also really good. But obviously it might hurt our chances of winning a Stanley Cup, being the first team in the West. Last 2 games of the season, both home games. Let's see if we can get another win. Baudin apparently is back, which I think, yeah, he needs to be put in the lineup. Wasn't sure if he was already in the lineup or not. So there you go, that's good to go. And we win our last 2 games of the season. One was a shutout, one was a good defensive game as well. And we finished the year with 113 points in 54 wins, which is the best season, I think, in franchise history, which is really impressive. And Jacob Chigrin had 90 points in 80 games to lead the team. My God. What a year for this team. To go from making it to the first round of the playoffs for the first time in the series to now having a season over 50 wins. Let's take a look at the team stats and the player stats, and then we'll also take a look at who we're up against in the first round of the playoffs. But man, this was a phenomenal season for the team, except for the injury problems we had at some stages. But yeah, we were the 3rd best team behind Pittsburgh and Toronto. Toronto went off this year with 57 wins, and Pittsburgh had 55, but we had 54. A lot of teams actually had 50 plus wins this year, which is kind of impressive. A lot of juggernauts. In terms of goals for per game, we were the 5th best offensive team behind Tampa Bay, Carolina, Colorado, and Pittsburgh. 3.41 goals per game. And goals against per game wise, we were the 2nd best defensive team in the NHL behind the Toronto Maple Leafs, who only allowed 2.5 goals per game, which is pretty impressive. We only allowed 2.7, which was tied with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Power play percentage, 19.7%, I think it said, which is one of the best in the entire NHL. It's in like 9th or something like that. Penalty kill percentage definitely improved since we made those line changes, but it's still not one of the best penalty kills. But hopefully it could improve in the playoffs or something like that. But yeah, 81.7%. It's like just below mid-table, I would assume. 7 short-handed goals, 26-14-1, and 28-9-4 on the road. and 6-4 in our last 10. Not too bad. Now comes the fun part of taking a look at who did what for us this season. We'll take a look at everybody. So starting off with our centers, John Farinacci, 81 points in 82 games. He's definitely going to need a big-time extension if his asking price is going to come down. But he's been incredible so far. Liking how he's scoring goals, 40 goals in his second season. Love that. Barrett Hayton's been pretty good still as well, 72 points in 79 games. Love to see it. He's up to a 90 overall as well. It's probably all statistical growth, but that's good to see. Connor Geekie, 41 points. Impressive. He's up to an 83 overall. Like that. Vasily Ponomarev, 36 points is also pretty nice. He's up to an 84. So yeah, a lot of guys are going to be asking for a lot of money this offseason, I think. Boone Jenner, 34 points and a -10. Don't really like the -10, but at least he is not too bad of a vet to have on this team, I guess. Henriksen, 7 points in 14 games is really good for a depth forward. And Gustafsson, 3 points in 8 games. He might be, he's losing morale because of ice time, which really sucks. Left wing wise, Agostino, 69 points in 79 games. Not too bad. Improving upon his last few seasons. And he was a plus 41 this year, which means obviously that second line or first line actually was out there for a lot of goals for and not a lot against, which is really nice. But yeah, that's good to see from Agostino that he can actually score goals as well for a playmaker. Zadina, 58 points is not too bad, but I don't really know if it's living up to his contract considering he's making $9 million. So he might be one of these guys that still eventually get dealt away, even though we just brought him in a few years ago. Dylan Genther, 49 points is not too bad. He's up to an 84 still. Not bad, I guess. Braden Tracy was pretty damn good, 30 points this year. Didn't expect that. He's up to an 81 overall, which is pretty good. He might end up wanting a decent amount of money at some point. Right wing wise, our boy Calvin Shelley, 41 goals in 76 games. If he would have played 6 more games, he could have ended up hitting 50 goals, but what an incredible season for Shelley. He's now got 80 goals in 163 games. Like, this guy's just a pure goal scorer pretty much. But loving it so far. Hopefully he builds upon last year's playoffs builds up on last year's playoffs, because last year's playoffs he was a bit quiet offensively. But hopefully this year he could be a little bit better. Gauthier, 26 points is not too bad. Armia had 21 points, which I think was a good signing considering we gave him $5 million, but we did that just to give us a chance salary cap wise. Defensively though, Chychrun, I don't even know how Chychrun did this season. He's probably won the Norris. 90 points in 80 games. Jumping up from 61 points last year. What an incredible year for Chychrun, jeez. Soderstrom, 42 points. Timmins, 24 points is really good as well. Samorukov, 16 points. Bodin had 11. Yoki Haru was probably our weakest defenseman. 10 points and a -8. So if we need to get rid of somebody out of our lineup, it would be probably Yoki Haru. And we could honestly use Tukinen in that same spot or something like that. But yeah, it wasn't a good year for Yoki Haru. Because last year he was a +10 and had 19 points. But this year his point production went way down. Like, he doesn't score a lot for a defenseman. And then J.J. Moser was not terrible, but he was a -5. And goalie-wise, Jack Campbell was phenomenal. 32, 13, and 3. 3 shutouts, a 9.11 save percentage, and a 2.61. While Linnefelt was 21, 9, and 2 with 4 shutouts, a 9.06 and a 2.81. So between all 3 of our goalies, since technically Wallstedt played a bit, we had a combined 8 shutouts this season, which is pretty awesome to see. Really good defensive season for the goaltenders. Let's take a quick look at the entire league for points. So the best player for points this entire NHL season was Connor McDavid with 100 points, which means Jacob Chychrun was only 10 points behind Connor McDavid this season, which is kind of nuts when you think about it. The best goal scorer this season was Austin Matthews with 57, which is pretty damn crazy. Best defenseman for points this year was Jacob Chychrun, 90 points. So look at the difference by Chychrun and Sergachev alone. Chychrun had an incredible year. He was 22 points more than Sergachev and way better than everybody else here. Klingberg was a +49, which is really good. But what a year for Chychrun. Definitely going to win the Norris, I think, at this stage. And in goalie-wise, the best goalie this year for wins was Chris Driedger in Toronto. He had 47 wins, which is incredible. Most shutouts by a starting goalie was Robin Leonard with 9. Best save percentage by a starter is Chris Drieger with a 923. Best goals against average by a starter is going to be Chris Drieger as well. So Chris Drieger is more than likely going to win the Vezina. Any goalie goals this year for fun? Yep, there was a goalie goal and an assist from Jeremy Swayman, so that's kind of interesting. Jeremy Swayman in Dallas, so that's kind of neat. Best rookie this year for points was Jalen Tubert of the Devils. Zion Nybeck was up there. We traded him away to Tampa Bay when we brought in Lawrence. So that's kind of interesting to see him actually up there and producing. He was a plus 29 there as well. I don't know if that was a mistake trading him away, but I think it made sense for us because I feel like Lawrence will be better at 23 years of age when he gets to the NHL, but there is that. Braden Tracy actually was up there for rookie points too. Not too bad. So that is that. Actually, I'm going to take a look at the AHL stats as well because I did not take a look at that. I'm kind of curious on the AHL player stats. So Varlamov had 62 points. Sadikov had 56. But a lot of our guys put up a decent amount of points. And a lot of them could end up being in the NHL next season. Tukinen was pretty good. He kind of had a worse season than last year in terms of offense, but was better defensively, so that's nice to see. But yeah, our offensive team, our AHL team, looks like they're going to be a pretty good team going into the playoffs, and I think Wallstead should be our backup next season. So we might have to let go of either Campbell or trade away a Lenafelt at some stage. So there is that. And now let's take a look at who we're going to be playing in the first round of the playoffs this season. Who is it going to be? It's going to be none other than the San Jose Sharks, who did not have a great season, 39-34-9, but they just barely made it into the playoffs. So that's kind of interesting. Let me take a look at what the playoff tree looks like, and I'll show you guys that. And then we'll take a look at their rosters. So this is the playoff tree so far. So we got Colorado and Winnipeg, us in the Sharks, Anaheim and Edmonton, LA and Vancouver. And in the East, you got the Rangers and the Canes, the Flyers and Penguins, so that's going to be interesting. Ottawa and Tampa Bay, and Toronto and Montreal, which should also be pretty interesting. So some decent rivalries there for sure in the East. Now let's take a look at what those San Jose Sharks look like. Hopefully it's a team that we could beat since they just barely made it into the playoffs. So San Jose is comprised of Joachim Blichfeld, which is kind of a weird player to have on your top line, but he's playing with William Eklund, who's developed really well. Obviously, he's definitely their best player on this team, I would assume. He's signed for 6 years at 8.86 too. Interesting. They also have Robbins, who I don't know why they have Robbins on the top line. They might have an injury. Second line, they have Yanni Gourde with Logan Couture and Dmitry Timoshev. So, yeah, this team is kind of interesting. I mean, they have some good vets for sure, but I think they're mostly a veteran-heavy team, it looks like, unless they have some youth in terms of depth guys or defensemen. But third line, Craig Smith, Isaac Lundestrom, that's a really good piece to have on the third line. And Chandler Stevenson. I think their third line is honestly better probably than... Actually, never mind. I think it's good the way it is. But I would still move Lundestrom up and Couture down if I was them. Fourth line-wise, Nick Ritchie, Ryan McLeod, and Ryan Hartman. Interesting. But yeah, it's some pretty solid forward core for the most part. Defensively, they have Mario Ferraro and Elias Salomonson, who they must have drafted in year number 1. Yeah, in year number 1. Interesting. On the top 4, they have Ryan Merkley, and Mark-Edward Vlasic is still kicking around at 39 years of age, which is kind of nuts. And he is still making $7 million for this one season, which is kind of funny. And then on their top 6, they have Wes Millman, who's a top 4 defenseman with an X factor, who could throw hits apparently, and Shantis Schergel. So they're playing a forward on defense, which is a little weird. So definitely their defensive core is probably their weak front. As for goalies, they got Kaapo Kähkönen and Tucker Tynan, so their goaltending isn't great either, but it's still not terrible. And in depth-wise, Erik Karlsson is currently out with an injury, so that's pretty big. They also got Wade Allison, who's not too bad, and Steven Shanahan, who's a low top 6 forward prospect of theirs in his first season. I wonder how long Karlsson is out. We got to take a look and see how long he is out for, if he's going to miss this entire round or not. But other than that, I think we definitely have a chance because of how bad that defensive core is. But the forward core is pretty solid there. He is out till May the 6th, so right around his birthday, actually, I'm pretty sure. It's kind of funny. So he is going to miss this entire playoff round, which gives us a definite chance of being able to beat this team, I think, and winning our first playoff series. So anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of our Arizona Coyotes franchise mode. So in next episode, we will take it to round 1 against the San Jose Sharks as we look to win our first playoff series and see what this young team could do in the playoffs. So let me know what you guys think down below, and I'll see you guys next time.